Every time we had dinner at my fiancé's parents' place in Oakville, I'd black out cold by dessert and wake up with my dress zipper undone and my hair completely wrecked, like I'd been wrestling someone in my sleep. Before I get into this, let me know in the comments where you're watching from tonight. And if you've ever had to dig up the truth about a family that smiled at you while planning your downfall, hit subscribe, because this story still makes my hands shake when I think about it. My name doesn't matter as much as my job does, so I'll just tell you, I'm a forensic auditor for one of the big 5 banks in Toronto. I'm 29. I grew up in a rent-geared two-income apartment in Scarborough, with my mom working double shifts at a long-term care home, and I worked my way through Western on scholarships and student loans I paid off myself by 26. My fiancé's family, on the other hand, had old Bay Street money, the kind that gets passed down through trust funds and country club memberships at the Oakville Golf Club, the kind that talks about the cottage, like there's only ever one cottage that matters. His mother never once asked how I was doing. She asked what my father did for a living, what my credit score probably looked like, whether I understood what it meant to marry into a name. His father ran a private wealth management firm that managed money for half the CEOs in the GTA, and his sister was married to a hedge fund guy who wore a Patek Philippe to brunch like it was a personality trait. Sunday dinners at the house on Lakeshore Road were a ritual I dreaded more than performance reviews. The dining room had a view of the lake through floor-to-ceiling windows, and his mother served everything on china that had her grandmother's initials engraved into the rim. That particular Sunday in March, the air felt off the second I walked in. My fiancé's mother had made a beef Wellington from scratch, something she only did for important occasions, and kept hovering near my plate the entire meal, refilling my wineglass before I'd even finished half of it. About 40 minutes in, a wave of exhaustion hit me so hard I nearly slid out of my chair. It wasn't normal tired, it felt like someone had poured wet cement into my limbs. I remember my fiancé's hand on my back, his voice sounding far away, and then nothing. I woke up freezing, the chandelier above me throwing sharp little daggers of light into my eyes. My mouth tasted like pennies. When I tried to sit up on their cream Italian sofa, my arms wouldn't fully cooperate. The first thing I noticed was the zipper on the back of my dress, undone all the way to the small of my back, the cold air hitting skin that should have been covered. I touched my face on instinct. My lipstick was smeared past the corner of my mouth like someone had wiped it there on purpose. My pulse started slamming before my brain even caught up to what I was looking at. A voice cut through the fog. Well, look who finally decided to wake up. His mother stood in the doorway holding a glass of Sancerre, dressed like she was about to host a gala instead of clean up after her future daughter-in-law passed out on her sofa. She didn't ask if I was okay. She asked if I was going to make a habit of embarrassing this family in front of the help. I tried to explain I'd only had 2 sips of wine. She cut me off with a laugh sharp enough to leave a mark. Please, we all know exactly what kind of girls from your part of town are used to. You can take the girl out of Scarborough, I suppose, but apparently not the other way around. While I fumbled with the zipper, my hands trembling, a colder realization crawled up my spine. My bra clasp had been undone too, not loosened from tossing around. Undone. Someone had touched me while I was unconscious deliberately and put it back almost right, but not quite. I wanted to scream. Where was my fiancé? Where was his sister? The house was unnervingly quiet for a place that usually had staff moving through it constantly. Before I could ask his mother anything, the study door creaked open and his brother-in-law stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks with this slow, satisfied smirk that made my stomach drop straight through the floor. My fiancé burst in from outside a second later, breathless, holding my coat. He didn't even glance at his brother-in-law. He grabbed my arm, too hard, too fast, and said we needed to leave before I caused another scene. On the drive home, he told me I'd gotten overheated, that I'd practically torn my own zipper open complaining about the heat, that his mother had to fight to get me onto the sofa because I refused to move. I told him I knew my own body, that I hadn't felt hot, that none of it made sense. He used that calm, condescending voice he saves for explaining things to children. You're an auditor, babe. You spend all day looking for fraud that isn't there. You're seeing conspiracies because that's literally your job. Nobody in my family would ever hurt you. That's the thing about being gaslit by someone you love. It doesn't argue with you. It just patiently, gently convinces you that you're the unreliable one. I let him walk me to my apartment door in North York. I told him I needed to be alone. The second the deadbolt clicked, I went straight to my work laptop, the encrypted one issued by the bank, loaded with audit trails for accounts belonging to half the wealth management clients in Southern Ontario. My personal phone first. I powered it on to check messages and the screen lit up red. Device locked. Too many failed passcode attempts. I hadn't touched that phone since before dinner. Then I checked the work laptop. The biometric log showed an attempted facial scan at 7:52 p.m. Exactly when I'd been unconscious on that sofa, rejected because the system detected closed eyes. Someone had held my face up to that camera, trying to force their way past a retinal and blink security protocol designed specifically to stop exactly this kind of attack. This wasn't about embarrassing his mother. This was never about wine. I sat with my coffee at 2 in the morning replaying the whole dinner. The soup. His mother had brought my bowl out herself, hovering while I ate, watching with this tight little smile until I finished it. She never did that for anyone else at the table. Within 20 minutes, my vision had started swimming. She'd drugged me, in her own dining room. Surrounded by china with her grandmother's initials on it, I am an auditor. My entire career is built on finding the truth buried under spreadsheets designed specifically to hide it. I wasn't going to the police with nothing but a bad feeling and a locked phone. His family had 3 lawyers on retainer and a name that opened every door in the GTA. I needed proof nobody could spin, delete, or explain away. I ordered a surveillance button online, the kind with a microscopic camera and recorder hidden inside, designed to look exactly like the mother-of-pearl buttons on the blouses I wore every single Sunday. I paid for rush shipping with a prepaid card so it couldn't be traced back to me. For the next week, I played the perfect, apologetic, slightly embarrassed fiancé, texting him that I'd just been overtired from work, swallowing my pride to keep the act airtight. Friday, the button arrived. I sewed it onto my favorite cream silk blouse and spent an evening testing the angle until I was sure it would catch a full field of view of anyone leaning over me. That weekend, his mother texted asking if I could bring my work laptop to their backyard barbecue. His father supposedly needed help running some numbers for the family's wealth management business. I felt the cold satisfaction settle into my chest. They were getting desperate. Desperate people get sloppy. Sunday came with that thick, humid Ontario heat that makes the lake smell like algae. Their backyard had been turned into something out of a wedding magazine. A string quartet, white tents, caterers in black aprons weaving through guests, holding glasses of rosé. His father stood by the grill, holding a glass of single malt while an actual chef did the cooking. His mother held court on the patio in a designer sundress like she owned the sun itself. I wore the cream blouse. The hidden button felt like armor against my collarbone. His sister and brother-in-law were lounging on the patio furniture when I walked up, and his sister looked me over with that particular brand of contempt reserved for people who actually have jobs. "Surprised you could get the day off from your little cubicle," she said, sipping champagne. Her husband chuckled and added something about how exhausting it must be building wealth from scratch without a trust fund to fall back on. I smiled politely, reached up to adjust my collar, and pressed the button. A tiny vibration confirmed it was recording. My fiancé brought me a drink, a margarita, to help me relax before the boring number stuff. I took a sip, kept it pooled in my mouth, faked a swallow, and spat it discreetly into a napkin the second he turned to greet someone. I repeated that for 20 minutes until the glass was mostly melted ice. Then I performed, slurred a few words answering his father's question about capital gains, let my eyes droop. Let my knees buckle just enough that my fiancé caught me, loudly announcing to the patio that the heat's getting to her again. He walked me inside to the same cream sofa, laid me down, and I let my body go completely limp, breathing slow and deep like I was already gone. I heard the patio doors slide shut, the lock click, the party noise muffled instantly, and then his mother's voice, stripped of every ounce of warmth. "Hurry up, get her top off." Footsteps. His sister's hands fumbling with my buttons, the very button that was recording every second of it. "This is disgusting," she muttered. "Why do I have to do it?" "Why can't you do it?" she snapped toward her brother. He said if he touched me, he couldn't play the concerned fiancé when I woke up. I felt my brother-in-law's cold hands working the clasp of my bra while his mother instructed them not to leave marks, so she believes she did this to herself again. Then I heard my laptop being set on the glass table in front of me, and my fiancé's voice, all business now. "Dad says the audit's Tuesday. If they find the offshore numbers, we're done." The numbers, as it turned out, were staggering. $11 million in client funds quietly funneled out of trust accounts at his father's wealth management firm and parked in a shell company registered out of the Cayman Islands. Propping up real estate his father had wildly overleveraged. They needed my biometric login to wipe the flag the bank's compliance team had already placed on 3 of those accounts before federal regulators came looking. "She's a senior auditor with clearance," his mother said coldly. "I always knew bringing a girl with a banking badge into this family would be useful eventually." The system rejected the scan again, just like before, because my eyes wouldn't open. His mother snapped at his sister to get her phone out. "We're securing our insurance policy." She instructed her son-in-law to climb onto the sofa, put his arm around my bare waist, make it look intimate. I lay there while they staged photographs that would have ended my career and humiliated me in front of every contact in my professional network if anyone had ever seen them out of context. When they finally pulled back, satisfied with their 20 good shots, I let out a groan and woke up, disoriented, clutching my blouse shut, gasping at the staged scene around me. My fiancé rushed to my side instantly, playing concerned partner like he hadn't been orchestrating my assault from the doorway 60 seconds earlier. I let him drive me home. I let him think he'd won. That night, alone in my apartment, I ripped the button off my collar and connected it to my laptop. I traced his brother-in-law's phone. It had pinged my home Wi-Fi during their later visit when they came to threaten me, handing me his device ID without him even realizing it. From there, it took less than an hour to crack into an encrypted partition on his cloud storage. What I found wasn't just the real estate fraud. It was a registered charity. A youth hockey foundation his family proudly sponsored every year. The one that ran fundraising galas every November to send underprivileged kids in Peel region to tournaments and pay for equipment they couldn't otherwise afford. Over 14 months, regular transfers had been quietly siphoned out of that foundation's account into the same offshore shell, then funneled into volatile crypto trades his brother-in-law made trying to cover his own gambling losses. The foundation's current balance, according to the ledger I pulled, was effectively zero. Every kid who'd shown up to that rink expecting new equipment had been funded by a lie that had already collapsed underneath them. I built the case the way I build every case, methodically. Network logs placing him in my apartment during the blackmail visit. Wire transfer records showing the exact dates donations vanished into the Cayman account, matched against the foundation's own public fundraising announcements. The biometric assault logs from both nights. The hidden footage, raw and undeniable, capturing every word his mother said in that living room. I called him the next morning and gave the performance of my life. Broken voice, real tears, the whole thing, telling him I'd found a way to bypass the bank's compliance flag, that I'd do whatever they wanted, but I had one condition. I wanted to sign everything publicly, at the family spring gala the following Friday, in front of his parents' entire social circle, so his mother would finally believe I was loyal and stop holding the photos over my head. To a normal family, that request would have sounded insane. To people who fed on control and public submission, it was irresistible. They agreed instantly. I scheduled a dead man's switch on my work email, an encrypted file going automatically to the bank's compliance director and the RCMP's financial crimes unit, set to fire at exactly 8 p.m. Friday, the precise moment his parents would be standing at the podium, giving their anniversary toast. Friday night, I wore a deep emerald gown I'd bought months earlier and never had an occasion for. It felt less like a dress and more like armor. I drove myself to the house on Lakeshore Road, past a driveway lined with more luxury SUVs than I'd ever seen in one place, and walked into a ballroom glittering with floral arrangements and string quartet music, packed with bank executives, golf club members, and half the Bay Street wealth management world. His mother paraded me around for an hour, introducing me to judges and investors as Malcolm's little project, whispering loudly about how she was, really helping me learn how to fit in. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood and kept my hand wrapped around the flash drive in my clutch. When his father called me up to the stage to officially join the family trust by signing the guarantor papers in front of everyone, I asked if we could project the property documents first, so everyone can see exactly what kind of family I'm joining. His father, drunk on his own ego, agreed instantly. I plugged in my laptop. The screen behind us flashed to life. It wasn't the deed, it was the photograph. The gasp that rolled through that ballroom was the loudest sound I've ever heard. Glasses shattered on the marble. His brother-in-law went the color of paper. His mother lunged for the podium, screaming to cut the power, but my laptop ran on battery and I was already moving to the second file, the audio, his mother's voice ordering them to strip my top off, echoing through the speakers in full, undeniable clarity. I took the microphone before anyone could stop me. "This family drugged me," I said, my voice carrying over 200 stunned guests. "Twice. They staged that photo while I was unconscious to blackmail me into signing away access to a $5 million fraud they're currently hiding from federal auditors." His mother shrieked. His father stood frozen, his whole legacy dissolving in real time. I clicked again, and the screen filled with rows of wire transfer dates lined up against the foundation's own public fundraising totals. "And if you donated to the Youth Hockey Foundation, this family loves to put on every charity newsletter. Every dollar of it is gone, wired offshore, gambled away in crypto trades by the man standing right there." The room exploded. Two parents from the local hockey league grabbed his brother-in-law by the collar before he could even reach the exit. His sister screamed that I was lying, that I was just jealous, until I quietly told her to ask her husband where her children's college fund actually went. His mother collapsed against the wall in her sequined gown, the high society she'd spent decades climbing turning on her in real time. My fiancé finally snapped, lunging at me with a look I'd never seen on his face before, something raw and unhinged. He didn't get within 3 feet of me. The two off-duty security guards I'd hired privately for the night had him face down on the hardwood before he could even raise his hands. Then the sirens started. RCMP financial crimes officers came through those front doors like a wall, and within minutes his father and brother-in-law were in handcuffs, while 200 of Oakville's finest watched their entire social order collapse on a Persian rug. 6 months later, the house on Lakeshore Road sold in a foreclosure auction for a fraction of what it was worth. His father took a 14-year sentence for securities fraud. His brother-in-law got 11 years for the charity embezzlement, on top of restitution he'll never actually be able to pay. His sister filed for divorce and now works retail outside Hamilton, completely cut off from the circle that once worshipped her. His mother moved into a one-bedroom condo near the same Scarborough neighborhood she used to mock me for coming from, and as far as I know, nobody from her old life has ever called her back. As for my fiancé, 15 years, federal facility, no possibility of early parole given the scale of what they tried to pull with a federal banking employee's credentials. I left that ballroom that night and never looked back at that house once. I used everything that happened to launch my own independent forensic auditing firm downtown, with a view of the lake that doesn't belong to anyone's family name but mine. I work the hours I choose. I answer to no one. I took the worst thing that's ever happened to me and turned it into the one thing nobody can ever take away from me again. Never let someone convince you that you imagined the thing your own body remembers. Gaslighting only works in silence. The second you start looking for proof, it starts looking for an exit. If you've ever trusted someone completely who turned out to be the person who hurt you the most, tell me how you finally figured it out, down in the comments. And if you loved watching this family get exactly what they had coming, hit like and subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.